Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Spooktator. My name's Hayley Stevens and joining me this evening are Paul Gannon.
Hello.
Mike Gage.
Alright.
Yeah. Ash Price.
Hello.
And Alistair Coleman.
Hello.
You would not believe what we've been doing in the warm-up to this. It's kind of weird, and that's why you will never see it. But welcome back to episode 2.
There needs to be more context behind that.
Yeah.
Just
never give context.
Yeah, context is just overrated. So we are going to be looking back at November's ghost stories and weird stuff that made the headlines. How have you guys been though since the last show? Has fame gone to your heads?
Let's talk about Mike about that.
Yeah, Mike. Good old Mike. Sexy Mike.
No, well, I try my best. No, I've not let fame go my head. I have actually been doing nothing though. So you should probably pass on me. I've been working, and that's it. And being forced to get headphones that I don't really want. So no, I had to because of feedback. That was the main thing. But yeah.
That's just Britain, hey Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anybody else been up to anything, or are we just going to just not?
Go on. Go
on. I was
Ash,
just saying I've just been working on dissertation and rewriting a couple of shows, developing a new version of How to Talk to the Dead, and learning a few new magic routines, which has been quite good fun. Yeah. I'm learning how to eat glass.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an impressive skill.
It's parties. Well, exactly, and also it's low carb, which means it's fine.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
this month I've been reworking my North Korean lecture, which is called "What Do We Know About North Korea?" I've got a new booking for it. If you're in the Reading area in January, I will be chatting to a whole hall full of people, and I hope we have some more Spooktator watchers in the crowd as well. There may be free sweets given out. Terrible.
That's just
Terrible
terrible.
Korean sweets.
Also, creepy. Very creepy. A man offering sweets to people who come to see a show in a town hall. A nondescript town hall.
And death and shame.
That's what you call the show.
Well, I've been pissing people off on my blog.
Oh, what's new?
I wrote. Excuse me. I wrote a blog
Who is it
post.
this week?
How dare you? I don't really recall their names because they're not very important. But
Bring it up then. I don't understand. They're not important enough, to be honest.
I basically blogged somebody called Michael Prescott. I think his
me.
name is. Well, did you blog?
No.
Then how would it be you? The
I'm
blog.
just like, I don't know.
It's all about him now with the things going through his head.
For those who don't know, we had a comment left on the Spooktator website from a lady saying that she would like to get a cup of coffee and more with Mike, and it's gone to his head.
More?
More? No, that wasn't mentioned.
More?
She said etc., which I took to mean more.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, it might be a bit
I have much nicer hair.
We're never going to know with that webcam quality.
Guys,
So
you're all special. You're all, I'm sure there are plenty of women out there who would want to get coffee with all of you. You're okay.
So Hayley, who upset or who got in touch with you to say they were upset?
Oh yes, I blogged. This guy blogged about skeptics. He was doing some psychoanalyzing on skeptics and why we're skeptical and why we can't accept proof. Not us, but in general. And I kind of blogged about how it was quite rude to do that. And also he talked about militant debunkers, which always seems like a really weird kind of term. And so I blogged about that. And I made a joke about Rupert Sheldrake and Deepak Chopra. And then my blog got flooded with angry comments from people who believe in them, I think.
I read that article, by the way, that he wrote about you, like the problem with Hayley or something. What was it called? Is that someone else?
That was one of his kind of supporters, I guess.
Because that guy, every other article on his website about travel, and all of a sudden he's like defending the supernatural industry, and I'm thinking that's a hell of a left turn. He must have obviously had his heart.
I obviously have that effect on people. They just completely change their entire website so they can lecture the world about what's wrong with me.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive though.
I know, and
I
that's
mean,
that's what
so
I've
I'll
been
tell you
getting
what I've
at.
been up to then.
Yes.
So let's not go into my way. So, I hate to show off, but I did my solo show a few weeks ago. Oh yeah, for a new documentary called Ghost Heads, which is about Ghostbusters fans all over the world. And so this guy got in touch with me and said, "Your solo show is meant to be good," because he's from Canada. He hadn't seen it. Can I film it? So I had all these people turn up and some camera people, and we filmed my solo show for a special one-off. And it was great because all these people came up dressed as Ghostbusters, and so they had the proton packs and everything. And I was like a pig in plop. And the show went well. So hopefully that'll make it to the documentary in one piece. We'll see where it goes. So that's what I've done.
That's pretty cool. You just had to go and outclass everybody, didn't you?
No, because when you see the footage, you'll realise how I really should have got a better Ghostbusters uniform, because the one that I was wearing doesn't fit me in any respect, and
Did it
leaves
ever?
nothing to the imagination.
Oh,
It did very briefly once, and then I
And now you just
started
look like
eating
a
Haribo.
you just look like a prisoner in it, do you?
Yeah, it's a Ghostbusters uniform is meant to be baggy. Unfortunately, this looks like someone's just taped a bunch of sausages together and put my head on the top. So, so that's what I did. So look out for the Ghost Heads documentary coming sometime next year.
no, definitely. That's really cool. That's really cool. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like since Halloween, the kind of ghosts that there have been hardly any ghosts in the media. You know, you normally get the dodgy photos and the shit videos and so on. There's been hardly any of them, which is quite weird, don't you think?
Well, I suppose the enthusiasm around it's dropped off now. Halloween's disappeared. People are kind of forgetting about it again, which is a shame, because, you know, supernatural shenanigans should be a year-round event.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it is a year-round event now because of the internet. And so as a result, it's like all these stories are just part of the scenery now when it comes to Halloween.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that the ghosts down under are a bit out of shape. Alistair, have you got... What? That's
No,
not
it's good.
cheesy!
It's not. It was beautifully awkward. I wanted to...
I thought it went really well, actually.
No, it did. That's why I giggled. I was impressed.
So I'm so impressed with myself on that, I'm actually going to say it again. One thing we know for sure is that the ghosts down under are out of shape. Alistair, would you like to explain?
Yes. Okay. I've been rooting around the internet to look for ghost story, and here we have what is called In the Headline, and you can find it on the Spooktator cast page when Hayley's got it running, which you have already, haven't you?
Oh, yes, I have.
100% real ghost filmed in Perth front yard. Let us be the judges of that. Before I dig into this one, I'll tell you a true story of when I was a spotty teenager many years ago. I was a school geek. I'm now just like an almost grown-up geek at the age of 40. Yeah. Me and my friends, or my friends and I, if we're going to be grammatically pedantic about it, that's not even grammatically pedantic. We had the run of the school darkroom, and we did a few things with photographic trickery. And one of the things we found we could do was cut out an oval shape, put it onto a window with blue tack, put the net curtains back because it was the the 1980s, and we had net curtains were a thing then. They still a thing. They're still a thing. They are still a thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And take a black and white photo of it, process it in the school darkroom. You have the best looking UFO you've ever seen in your life. So much so we actually sent one off to the local newspaper, and they paid £20 for it.
What?
Wow.
So yeah, so
you should be on the show. We should be doing your story right now.
So that's
£20 of 1980s money as well.
Yeah, 1980s money that was. Yeah, between six of us. Yeah, still a fortune.
Wow.
Still a fortune.
How many Beanos can you buy with that?
Yeah, straight down the tuck shop.
Just a whole big bag full of fruit salads and blackjacks, just carrying out bin liners.
I mean, even back then, even before then, I mean, you've got Loch Ness monsters, you've got UFOs, you've got spotty teenagers from the home counties sending dodgy photographs to local newspapers. Um, Now it seems you can just get away with anything with videos, and here we have is a Perth man in Australia believing he's captured a 100% proof of a ghost in his front yard. Okay, so if you actually go to the video and have a look at it, what you see is
And
a flat
just for those who might want to, you can go to bit.ly/square ghost.
square ghost, exactly a flat square thing floating around in a car park in front of some cars and a van and what have you. It's very, very flat. It's very, very square. I'm actually taken into thinking that it's from that plastic bag scene in American Beauty. You know, when they go, "Yeah, let's see the most beautiful thing I've ever found." I
I
say
didn't
they
know Cartman was in that.
see the most beautiful thing I've ever found, and he shows the plastic bag scooting
Yeah.
around. It is exactly like that. It looks like a plastic bag. This man, who is obviously an expert in ghosts, says it's 100% proof of the supernatural. It's a square thing floating in front of a camera. It might be a moth. It might be something flying and deadly because it is Australia, where the wildlife just so much as looks at you and you know you're dead meat. But yeah, I've actually been doing some research into CCTV cameras because this is, of course, CCTV camera footage. And in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in Australia, something like 90% of installed CCTV cameras are not capable of providing evidence that will stand up in court. That's 9 out of 10, and it's for things like no timestamp. I don't believe there's a timestamp on this video. If it's low quality, if there's dirt on the lens, any camera that's been outdoors for a year or so, it's going to be absolutely filthy dirty if you don't look after it. In this case, it's done at night. The pixel rate is appalling. It could be absolutely anything, this square thing, but it's a ghost. I was going to do a little bit more research on other videos, but Yahoo, who are the people who the website's on, have actually done it for me, and they've put in something like 10 videos of appalling ghosts. There's one, it's called Ghost Caught on Camera Singing Along with Little Girl. I believe man singing along with little girl behind camera. Ghost torments Irish woman. Everything happens off screen. You can virtually see where the strings are.
Right.
Oh, is this the one in the kitchen with the doors opening?
Yes,
Yes,
I mean
know that one.
that is one. I mean, Ghost Visit Pub. You got a few lights flipping on and off. The trouble with ghost videos is that people will believe what they want to see, and if you keep scrolling down, there's one called "Creepy Video Shows Ghosts Playing in Disneyland After Hours." It's a fake. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously a fake, but these stories, like the old saying, it's Churchill, wasn't it? I remember Churchill well, sitting there nodding his head, going, "Oh yes." Oh, no, the wrong Churchill.
The Disney photo, the Disney one, is that the one of the guy walking through the park?
Yeah.
That's actually that one. It's to do with the tape that they were using and the way in which it was recorded. It was actually picking up a previous recording.
It wasn't. Yes.
It's called the ghosting effect.
I used to work as a video editor, for a whole 6 months, and yeah, you get all kinds of artifacts left behind on dodgy tapes or dodgy video machines. Yeah, but security cameras are absolutely notorious for putting up stuff which is complete rubbish, and people want to believe that it's a ghost. That's the thing about it. People want to believe they've seen a ghost when it's just a reflection on glass, or in one case, a woman just falling over. Just falling
Oh yes.
That's in there. The woman pushed to the floor by a ghost
It's just
is a woman falling on her back.
So it's either a ghost video, or it's you've been framed.
There's a
It's one or the other.
whole page of these, and I am not convinced by a single one. Let's take this to the panel. What do you think?
I want to know where he got his 100% stamp of approval from.
I was really impressed. He was very confident.
Yeah.
This is the thing, though. It tends to be because of the way the internet works. Phrases like that aren't to back up the story; it's to get the clickbait going. Because ultimately, once you've clicked on it, they've already justified their existence to their advertisers. And so phrases like "real ghost," "100% scary footage" are the kind of things that teenagers late night scrolling the internet will go to.
Yeah.
Are
And
you
it's
telling me this is all for advertising?
Yeah, and this is it's one of these weird things as well, where it's like we don't have urban legends anymore. We have a thing called creepypasta, which I can't remember if I talked about this last time, but creepypasta is basically an urban legend, but it exists or originates online first, either on forums or whatever, and most of the time they're complete fakeries drawn out to tell a good ghost story. But there's that one that slips through, and it's stories like that are the ones that slip through and get the kind of newspaper attention.
Yeah.
Slenderman, is that from Creepypasta?
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
creepypasta, yeah.
That's that, and there's another one called Jeff the Killer, which are the two big kind of superstars of the creepypasta world. Jeff the Killer's a great one. It's a photograph that has been debunked a long time ago, but generally unsettling. And the Slender Man has become almost a self-fulfilling prophecy now, because there was that story a little while ago with the two girls who stabbed a friend 30-odd times as a sacrifice to Slender Man. And so this horrible story has become a legend, part of a story, part of an internet thing, and it all loops back on itself.
It's basically fake lore, which is what you're talking about. Fake lore becoming folklore, and we've even had cases of people saying they've seen Slender Man in Cannock Chase, and probably traditionally they would have had those experiences and said that they saw a shadow ghost, but now they're seeing Slender Man instead. So it's it's coming off the internet and influencing the way people see things.
Here's one thing.
Entirely by the Daily Star.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think we should, next time we get together, we should talk about Cannock Chase in itself, because that's a fascinating whole world of stories, and this one guy driving it. I can't remember his name right now.
Lee Brickley.
He's built this. That's the one. We should save this for another time, but yeah, we should talk about him and Cannock Chase at some point, because I love all of that crap. I do. It's like that's also where the Black-Eyed Children started from originally, wasn't it?
Definitely is. Yeah,
Yes,
they had. Yeah, the Daily Star had like 3 or 4 front-page stories about these Black-Eyed Children.
Didn't the Sun also run that as well?
Probably, yeah.
And that's what surprises me, because I mean, we all know the Sun is disgusting, barely usable toilet paper, but even they ran with that story, and that sounded like a weird gambit on their behalf. So
yeah. It's an odd one, and Lee Brickley, he's an odd one too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Paul, we often find ourselves on this show discussing awful ghosts.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought...
Go on.
Have you ever found yourself thinking, oh, fuck it?
Oh.
Oh, God. That was a snap. That was a snap one as well. That just came out of nowhere. Left field.
Well, let me all sit. Oh, everyone sit back. It's going to get hot, right? Sorry, that was just too good. Okay, so my story. I kind of feel like I'm the barrel scraper on this show, because last week it was, and today
It's a euphemism.
Yeah. For exactly what you think it means. And this week I decided I'm going to tackle the thorny subject of ghost sex. And there's a phrase for it which I can't find right now in this ruddy article. But there is a phrase. You know what? Bear with me 2 seconds. This is what the great thing about editing is. Ghost.
We can't edit, we're live.
I know, but this is the thing about the podcast version. It's like all clean.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Fuck the live audience.
It's just set me to. What's the scientific term for when a ghost has sex with a human? All right, so thank you, Yahoo. And the answer. Oh no, it just says spectrophilia.
That's it.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
That was on the tip of my tongue.
And then someone goes
bet it
incubus and succubus.
I think we have to be really
So that's what I thought I'd
careful.
talk about this week, because my attention was drawn to a Daily Mail article, and at the best of times I hate touching that because I always feel dirty having been on the Daily Mail website. And so to cut a very long story short, the article, the title of it is "The Women Who Say They've Had Affairs with Ghosts, They're not mad." Oh, by the way, not with ghosts, I mean, I'm explaining the
Oh
actual
my God.
sentence structure. The women who say they've had affairs with ghosts, they're not mad, but respectable 20-somethings who say ghosts are better lovers than real men. And so it goes on this weird kind of article thing where the first lady, and she's pictured in the article, Sean Jameson, said she was breathless as she described her first night of passion with a lover. Also, Hayley, when you do the podcast version of this, can you put some sexy music on in the background while I read this next bit out?
I will try.
I'm going to read this out. So this is allegedly... It's a chicken brown cow is how you say it. Brown chicken brown cow. So
I was trying to extend it out a little bit.
Yeah. So this is what she says, allegedly, in this article. He knew instinctively what I wanted, and I didn't have to say or do anything, says the 25-year-old from North London. He was very handsome, a very beautiful man with hazel eyes, and as we made love, he stroked my body tenderly, and I could feel the weight of him pressing down upon him. His body felt incredibly light. The whole encounter lasted an hour, so this is obviously a fake story. And he afterwards whispered, "That was the most amazing thing I ever experienced." Which is sad considering he's dead.
Yeah.
That was very sensual.
Yeah.
I need some private time.
And as we drift off to sleep in each other's arms, a voice in my head kept asking, "Is this really happening?"
No.
Long story short, no. So the thing is, I could go through this whole article and explain away and talk about every single lurid story. But if you want that, you can give me your credit card details and I can do it over the phone privately to you. Why I picked this story out is not so much of the content, but the point of it. Because we're looking at the Daily Mail, and nearly every article they list is about the supernatural goes in their female section, which is, they're kind of... And if you know anything about the Daily Mail, they don't have a particularly healthy attitude to women and women's rights, but they exploit it like mad and dwell on female insecurities and all kinds of weird things like that and call them articles or health benefit articles and things. So I'm looking at this article. My first thing to think was, who is this Sean Jameson? Who is this woman who, in the picture, looks perfectly nice, looks perfectly lovely, posing very meekly? I went for a research. I went online, I typed her name in, and I did a search, and I couldn't find anything. So then my brain went, oh, obviously, they changed her name to protect her identity. I get that. So then I started looking around for variations on that, and it just got to that point where she was almost a ghost in herself. And so I'm wondering, let's just say, for example, this whole story's fake. Just let's go with that idea for a minute. Why would the journalist feel that this is something to put into the Daily Mail, this Jill Foster, and then create this whole narrative? I mean, is she just a frustrated Milton Boone writer? Is this what it all comes down to? Because they even get in touch with Chris French, who, as people in the paranormal world know, is a reasonably solid, rational debunker of the supernatural. But what I don't like about the article is the way it phrases certain things. I need to just search for one particular phrase that really got my goat, but it was something to do with the effect. What was it called? It's like, bear with me a second, because I knew I couldn't find it when I wanted it. That ruddy thing.
Live editing.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It should be a lot slicker. But basically, the gist of the article basically says, rational people explain this away by just saying it's sleep hallucinations or sleep paralysis. But these women know it's true. Because, like,
damn those rational people.
Yeah, it's shocking. For Anne Elizabeth, a 52-year-old charity worker from Lancashire, the sexual encounters with ghosts comforted her in times of heartbreak. And so she goes, kitchen utensils would go missing, and ghosts were playing with me and assuring me I wasn't alone. At 43, after 2 divorces, I needed to take a break from men, but not from sex. Mediums taught me how to become more intuitive and in tune with the paranormal. So lying in bed, I wondered if I could summon a ghost to have sex with me. I closed my eyes and envisioned a strong, handsome man with big shoulders. Minutes later, Anne said, she had a ghostly visitor. I kept my eyes closed throughout, and I was worried I might scare him or ruin the moment if I opened my eyes. So they
That's
had their
actually
thing.
quite sad.
This is the ultimate
It's quite a sad story, actually.
What does that have to do with the kitchen utensils, though?
Well, you can be creative.
Well,
That's what I mean. Does that play a part in the story, or is that just like...
the thing is, it's meant to be keep giving her a narrative, isn't it? It's like saying she thought she had ghosts in her house, things were going missing. She thought she'd tap into the fact that she couldn't find her ladle and have a lady bank, basically. I mean, I don't know how you quite reach the two, but so, you know, Chris French in this says in the article, if you believe in ghosts and have a vivid imagination, you'll imagine it was sex with a ghost. And Anne is adamant that her experiences are real. Over the next year, I had sex with 9 ghosts, she says.
Positively queuing up.
I knew they were all different because I asked for a different man every time, and I only wanted sex on my terms, in the morning and in my bed. I never had to worry about STDs or him not calling me back. And then she met a real man, and she's all happy now.
The ghost leaves a false number on the bed cabinet. Give me a call.
That would be horrible if you had sex with a ghost and it left a £1 coin after it left. Or just something like that. So, I mean, the thing is, I'm tickled by these articles, not so much because they're lore. I mean, it's great. It says, don't worry, this is, you know, this story sounds implausible, but we've been having sex with ghosts for thousands of years in Christian, Greek, or Jewish and Celtic traditions dating back as far as 2400 BC. And in modern cinema, Demi Moore got intimate with a dead partner in Patrick Swayze, and in Ghostbusters, Dan Aykroyd's character was pleasured by a spectre. He got a blowjob. And if I have to be strict about this, he never actually has sex with a ghost in the film. It is a dream sequence, and that's just me putting that to rest. And then I don't know. I just find these stories worrying, not so much of the content, but where they end up, because they're frankly like reading a Take the Break article.
I think it got turned down by Take a Break.
God, I know. There's too many false syllable words in this for a start, so you might be right.
Although they do have a fate and fancy something issue, don't they? Take a break, do.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
That's
really
brilliant.
Got to have a look at that.
My favourite issue involved they had a little psychic, because they had a load of guest psychics talking, psychic guests to give you readings. One of them was Texas, the psychic horse.
Is that Chat It's Fate?
It's genuine. It's somewhere. I've still got it in my room somewhere, actually.
No, I think I've seen it. Chat It's Fate magazine, and then there's Spirit and Destiny. They're the two main ones.
Yeah, let's Take a Break, Fate and Fortune.
Oh,
Which is the one
right.
I've seen. It's a crackingly awful read. You really ought to have a look at it.
But here's where I get. I'm not going to say edgy because I hate that word, and I don't want to say like I'm pushing buttons in a kind of, you know, Ferrari talk radio kind of way. But it's like a lot of this and a lot of these stories are driven to female readerships. And when I did psychic and science, I would say 80 to 85% of that audience were female. And in a very particular demographic, I would say late 30s to mid 50s. And then you jump ahead a generation, and then you got the coffin dodgers who were there, hoping that there's something on the other side. And I hate to be disparaging about it, but I'm kind of wondering if this is clickbait to kind of lonely women who watch too much Loose Women.
I think it's definitely, yeah. I mean, even these magazines that we mentioned as well, the articles they have in there, it's just full of bullshit, and it's because they know it sells. And it kind of, you know, obviously women often feel very insecure, and if they're questioning, you know, life after death and stuff, and there's stuff in there about empowerment and well-being and women's health and stuff, and it just sells. And not only does it sell the magazines, it then sells all their other products as well. I think it's very commercial.
And this is the weird thing as well, I tend to notice when it comes to men and women, when it comes to ghost hunting, is that the females who follow ghost hunting are much more into the spiritual side of it, the kind of crystals and the Ouija boards and the seances. And the guys treat it like it's a hobby, so it's all tech, it's all gadgets and toys and the science, even though some of them haven't touched a calculator since A-level. And that's kind of where I think the split is when it comes to the people who go ghost hunting or believe in the supernatural. It kind of appeals to the obvious things that men and women are different in, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's quite I don't know. I mean, there are stereotypes that you see kind of emerging within paranormal research and ghost hunting, in that you often see men kind of wearing utility vests with all the gadgets and wearing all black and stuff, and then the women tend to be the, you know, the psychics or sensitives. People tend to call themselves sensitives more and more rather than saying the psychic. And I think that television has a role to play in that a lot, because ghost hunting teams tend to mimic what they see on television. And I don't know if that's because women, I mean, there is research that shows that women are more likely to believe in certain paranormal ideas, whereas men are more likely to believe in others, like UFOs, whereas women are more likely to believe in psychics. But I think a lot of that also does have to do with the way that we kind of consume the media and the message the media delivers to us.
Yeah. And it's interesting because shows like Most Haunted and Ghost Hunters and all those kind of shows do have that divide built into the narrative. And so you're always going to get the groups who are defined almost into types, and those types lean upon, like as you say, the kind of stereotypes and gender divides that we kind of accept and just roll with.
And then you have Fred Bat.
And then you have Fred Bat, who, bless him, I don't even think he knows what he's doing anymore. I think they have him in a box. They open it up, shake a bag of biscuits, and he comes out sniffing for demons. That's the only thing I
out of
can...
an old people's home. That's what they do. They wheel him out, they slap him across the face, they put him on camera, and that's it. That's his job done, isn't it? Really?
I feel really bad because I hate taking the piss out of people like that when they can't defend themselves. But God Almighty. Anyway, bring back Derek Akora, I say.
Oh well, Derek Akora will be coming to our television screens soon, December 10th, with a show called Past Hunters.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
thought it was 14th.
December 14th, with a show called Past Hunters.
This is why
That'll
I
come
think
out
we
in
should
the
do a
edit,
Christmas
don't worry.
special.
Plug,
So I can watch that.
It's basically the Past Hunters were kind of advertising themselves on Twitter months and months ago about how they're bringing something new to the paranormal, and it turns out that new thing is Derek Akora.
And Posh
Yes.
Flocks.
Oh my lord! I saw the promo picture for it. Can we just talk about this actually for a second? So I thought the way they called it Past Hunters was just kind of be a ghost hunter show without actually using the word ghosts and put people off. I thought, oh no, they'll explore history at the same time. But no,
Yeah.
Past is an acronym for something, isn't it? It means psychic and shitty
That's it.
tech or something. Yeah, it's P.A.S.T. So it stands for something. And there's a clip that I was going to talk about in this show, but it
Please
turns out this
ask
clip.
Sam today.
Yes, very likely.
Thank you.
They did some video footage was on a website like News Ghost Court on Past Hunters show, and there was basically they caught a ghost shadow on a landing.
Oh yes,
You
yes.
see this? This
Yes.
is back in August, I think, so that's why I didn't use it for today's show. But it's definitely the cameraman's shadow. I mean, like, it's definitely.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
blogged about this at the time. The ghost is wearing cargo trousers,
Yeah.
and
He died in those trousers, you know.
and it's just on the wall. Like, I'm sorry, but I tend to think I know a little bit about ghosts. And shadow ghosts traditionally are things, and they can run through rooms and stuff, not just be flat on a wall like something out of Peter fucking Pan, you know. And yeah. So I've just, for those who are watching, if you're curious, on the Facebook page for the Spooktator, I have just shared the photo that we're talking about from the Past Hunters.
But isn't this show, like every other show, just going to fall flat on its ass? Like, it's just, there's nothing different about it. It's got Derek Akora with what looks like a really bad suntan all over,
is a
just
really
on his
bad
face,
suntan.
nowhere else.
I
And,
can tell you for a fact, he doesn't have a fake. It's not fake. He spends most of his year in his villa in Spain, so that explains. Seriously.
I've had enough of those English bloody ghosts now. I'm going to sit here in Spain on the veranda and just talk to the swimming pool. I mean,
He did a show about Egyptian ghosts, didn't he? So why not Spanish ghosts?
Yeah, that's
We did the Dutch ones as well on Most Haunted, and it turns out they all speak English.
Yeah, it's convenient. I mean, this is the other thing as well. Someone goes, "Oh, where did Sam, the ghost, come from?" And to cut a very long story short, because the anecdote's quite long, Derek Akora's favourite film is Ghost. And what was the name of the ghost in Ghost?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Wow.
And also, yeah, so there you go. That's just my opinion. Anyway, so basically, long story short, Daily Mail, sex ghosts. It got me through a long, dark night.
And
Quite literally.
And if anybody wants to read more about that, you can find the article at bit.ly/ghost sex. Okay, well, I mean, reading that story, some of the women kind of struck me as maybe being quite vulnerable, and I don't know what they may have been kind of exposed to elsewhere in magazines and so on. The story that I've got for this episode is about a family who, it's difficult. I don't know if they are vulnerable or if they're playing the system. And I don't like to be cynical, but both are options. They're the Locke family from Grimsby, and they claim that they have been tormented by ghosts in their home for I think just over a year now. And they think that the main ghost, because in a ghost gang you always have a leader, and they think it's the lady that used to live in the house and died there a few years before they moved in. And they've got all sorts of stuff going on. They've got, I'm just going to read it actually because it's quite a list. They've got clocks going backwards, stuff moving around on shelves. They see ghosts on a regular basis, including boys playing marbles, a man in a bowler hat in the bedroom, and nothing to do with ghost sex, and a woman who comes out of the locked bathroom in... What is that, dress up?
Dress up sex, yeah.
Okay,
anyway, go on, go.
That was the most awkward interruption.
He's after more comments again.
Yeah, -2 points, Gryffindor House.
And they also claim that they see a woman walking out of the locked bathroom in a cloud of mist. I don't know. It's all quite bizarre. There's so much going on. A family friend claims that she was pushed off the toilet by the presence of an elderly lady. I'm not sure if that was a dead elderly lady or a living elderly lady, but either way I can see why that would be traumatic.
Fell off the toilet whilst drunk.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, that's probably libelous. She probably did not fall off the toilet.
Yeah, I doubt that. Yeah, you don't know what you're talking
Allegedly.
about. And a little bit more sinister is the claim that she woke up, one of the women woke up with scars or scratches on her stomach. And you can kind of see like the track this is going down where, they're being abused by ghosts. And the oddest report was the claim that one night they heard a spade being dragged along the landing, which is really specific. That's like a really specific thing. Oh, that's a spade being dragged along the landing. How do you... I mean, I don't know. I've never really heard something and thought, oh, that's a spade. Have you?
No. Say if it was a carpet landing, how do you know it was a spade?
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
think I've seen the photos. I think they've got wood floorboards.
Oh, right.
on the
Okay.
carpet. So,
If it was a gravel landing, it might be a bit different, but
Yeah.
it's not, is it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we got a gravel landing.
I just...
They're really terrible when you come out the bathroom.
yeah.
Bare feet.
Bare feet.
We didn't actually think it through when we had it put in.
I just, I could just imagine this kind of debate. Like, is that a spade? No, it's a fork. No, it's a trowel. But...
When is a spade is just a spade.
Could be a tortoise falling over.
I think we were all a bit shocked by that one.
I want to go for the most random comment I could think of.
When this first made the headlines, the family were asking for help. They wanted someone to go in and get rid of the ghost because they were very scared and they couldn't sleep. Someone hadn't slept for 11 days. And help came in the form of a guy called Steve Neeshaw, who claims to be a hypno-exorcist. And I didn't really know what a
Exorcist.
Yeah, a hypno-exorcist. I didn't know what one of those really was. I could kind of guess, but it's kind of what it sounds like. He puts people to sleep and then kind of does an exorcism on them. And it's really kind of worrying, actually. He performed one of these hypno-exorcisms on the 16-year-old daughter of this family, which is actually it's quite troubling. I mean, as a paranormal researcher, I don't work with anybody who's under the age of 18. And even if you're over the age of 18, there's this whole kind of list of things that I check before I work with somebody. And to conduct a hypno-exorcism or any kind of exorcism or spirit cleaning on a 16-year-old child is really concerning. And he told the media that he and his assistant, they went round the house to find the negative energy, and he was drawn to the attic. And he says that there's a teenage girl in the attic who wants to leave, and there's something troubling her. He then went into the bedroom of the 16-year-old daughter of the family, called Yasmin, and he put her into a trance. And he then invited the spirits in the house to talk through her, and so for her to be possessed and they could communicate. And nothing much happened. He said to the media, I'm very curious to see what's in the attic. I think there's something in there that wants to be out, I was instantly drawn to the attic, and I'm getting signals of a teenage girl who feels like she's imprisoned. She's not happy and doesn't want to be here. Which, you know, if you hear that about your house, that's going to really creep you out. He then induced Yasmin into a state of relaxation, and he received strong signals, but a clear message from any paranormal presence was not detected or recorded. And I know we're supposed to be kind of like a light-hearted show, but this was, you know, this is a story that you can look at and you can laugh. You can go, these people are just being stupid. But actually, when someone like this comes onto the scene, it's almost a bit predatory, and it kind of, I mean, like I said at the beginning, there's two options. Either they are making it up, or they genuinely believe this stuff is happening, and that means they're probably quite vulnerable. And then you've got someone like this coming into the mix. And this is the damage, I suppose, that the way in which the media reports this stuff can kind of do.
Well, I remember when I went to see one of your talks in London, it was something you brought up about the fact that when you invite ghost hunters into your house because you think you might be haunted, A, they have no real qualifications that, you know, qualify anything that they can say or do, and B, if they walk out of your house 4 hours later and say, yeah, there was 8 kids killed on your property and it used to be owned by a rapist and we think that's a demon, good night, and they leave, it's a horrible thing to leave that family or someone who's looking for help if they believe this stuff. That's a horrible thought to leave them with.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. And it's something that I think I didn't do it to this extent. I would never have done anything like this. But when I used to believe in ghosts, we would go to places, and very rarely did we go to someone's house. But there were a couple of houses, and we did the ghost hunting stuff, and then we left. And we never really ever considered that it might upset the people that we were kind of leaving there, that lived there, or even the people that worked in places. And I mean, looking back, I don't think any of those people were in a vulnerable position. But if they had been, then, you know, who knows what kind of effect that could have had on them. I mean, there is the alternative. It could be that this family are disputing a rent increase. They want to move house, or something like that.
It happens quite a lot, actually, because I had a friend who became a police officer where I grew up in the Wirral, and he would say you would definitely get a story like that every month or so. You get a report from someone who said my house is haunted, blah blah blah, lots of fuss, and again, long story short, it would all be down to a rent increase, or they bought the house and regretted it, and it was all. I mean, this doesn't discount every single story, but at the same time, there was this sense of this happens more often than you think, and the police don't talk about it because it's basically embarrassing for everyone concerned.
It is. It's very embarrassing, and of course, that's, you know, it's quite a cynical way to look at it and go, oh, they're just after a new house. If they're actually quite scared and you're just discounting them, it's quite a harsh way of treating them.
Yeah. There would be the other cynical way of looking at it, and I work in the media, so I'm looking at the media angle. Is that they have sought the media. This story came out 10 days after. Most Haunted went to a very haunted house. Where is it we're going to?
30 East Drive. Hey, way to drop it.
Yes.
Yeah, so for the people watching, the Spooktator will be going to 30 East Drive in 2016.
Yes, so they did 30 East Drive on Most Haunted at Halloween. This was about 10 days later. All of a sudden, there's a house in Grimsby which has got lots and lots of interesting ghosts. It's got somebody upstairs, it's got the woman coming out the bathroom, people falling off the toilet, etc., etc., etc. Something going on in every room. It makes me wonder how much of this is media-driven, whether they're seeing these things or not. It's impossible to tell without proper experts going in, and that's not even us.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. All these stories piggyback on one another because whether we like it or not, we are part of that same system.
Are
because
they interested
we're talking about this?
Getting alleged experts in who have got a television camera, that sort of thing, but we can't tell what their motives are.
I remember me and Hayley have gone investigating. God, I can't remember how many times now, Hayley, to be honest. But we used to go in there, and I remember going in there, and actually, and Hayley, you agree with me, I was bored shitless because nothing happened at all. We just walked around the Spitfire factory once that was converted into a car. Nothing happened at all, and I can't understand how. I think Paul said it a few times as well. They just go in, and something happens every time, like just hitting every time on these. Even on investigations that you hear in the media. and here on TV programs as well. It's always happening. But I've done 20+ investigations, Hayley, and nothing has ever happened that I would consider at all paranormal. And maybe that's just bad luck. I don't know. But Hayley's been on more than me, so you know.
Oh, yeah.
The line I used to use in my solo show is ghost huntings are like fishing, in that you spend a lot of time doing nothing and then you lie about what you caught. You know, so that's the way I kind of look at ghost hunting in a nutshell. That's really
good.
Not
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really good analogy in a way, because when talking of the Spitfire factory, it used to be a Spitfire factory. It no longer is, obviously.
Yeah.
We were there for
Not a lot
hours.
of call for Spitfires really these days.
You know, it's a very niche market. But we were there for hours and hours and hours, and nothing was happening, and it was cold and dark and grim. And then I remember probably about towards in the last couple of hours we were there. There was because it's now a garage or a car manufacturer's place or something like that. There was a workbench, and a tool just turned itself on, like a drill kind of thing. And we were on one side of the building. It was on the kind of halfway across, and it was a big building, and it was just making this kind of whirring noise, like woo, and everybody got really excited about it. But actually, in the greatest scheme of things, that's nothing. It's just a tool that's plugged in, turning itself on. But because we had been there for hours with nothing happening, we kind of made a big deal out of it because it was all that we had to go on.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's interesting as well, because I thought this would never get on TV, but I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a ghost hunting show where it's all skeptics, and the point of the show would be we want nothing to happen. So if anything did happen, it'd be more interesting.
We can pitch it to BBC4. They're going for these slow television things. Just a live séance or a live ghost hunt where nothing happens. It'd be like the anti-most haunted.
Yeah, that's what I think we should do.
I have pictures in my mind that when we go to 30 East Drive next year, if we do any live broadcasts, which hopefully we will be able to do, that's what it's gonna be. We're just gonna be sat there like, well, this is fun. Like,
I remember one time, Hayley, we just sat there just eating Skittles. Like it was literally that boring, popping Skittles. It was mad.
Eat yourself into a diabetic coma.
Yeah.
We did just used to sit around eating sweets like M&Ms. I think that M&Ms was a thing. One person would bring M&Ms, somebody else would bring Skittles, somebody else would bring the coffee, and it was just like a social gathering.
That's a lot of sugar and caffeine to have on a ghost hunt, if you don't mind me saying.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't see through time.
Towards the end of it, we're like, what is going on? There's stuff everywhere.
P.S. The name of the show, I would call it Least Haunted.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm going to pitch this. I'm generally going to try and pitch this to BBC4 and see what happens.
All right, cool, do it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
I've been approached by a number of TV shows that claim that they're going to be like the new thing, and they're going to bring that, they're not going to use token skeptics, and they're going to have like a fair representation of believers and non-believers. None of those television shows have ever had the green light. None of them. I don't think any of them have even made it to like making a pilot. It's that kind of, I don't know. So good luck pitching that.
All right.
They'll say no.
Yeah, wait to tear him down there.
Yeah,
Right, you're seriously going to do it.
But moving on, Ash, can you? This is tasteless. I apologise. Can you shed some light on the game that kids these days are just dying to play?
Oh,
that is. Oh God, that is. You're not allowed to write the segues anymore. Right, this is actually a really shitty story. Sorry, we're allowed to swear on this show because I just did.
Fuck no.
yeah.
Fuck yeah, excellent. This is a fucking shitty story. This happened recently in Belize, and involved a 22-year-old woman, Jacqueline Sanchez, who died during an exorcism or just after an exorcism. Basically what happened was she was playing or using a Ouija board, and people believe that she became, there we go, yep, play along at home. People believe that she became possessed, and they had to exorcise her. They were saying that she was speaking in a man's voice, that her back was arching, that she was having seizures and spasms, basically, and that they said that these convulsions and this hysteria, when they took her to the hospital, there was no reasonable diagnosis given. Now that's an interesting phrase there, no reasonable diagnosis. And without much more information, I wonder if they just dismissed the medical diagnosis because it didn't fit in with what they were expecting. And what they did instead was they took this poor young woman to a church where she had more convulsions, where they performed an exorcism, and where she died from a cardiac arrest. And the whole story is really, really sad, and it plays into all manner of superstitions and misinformation that exists out there, especially around the Ouija board. And the biggest problem is exorcisms do still take place around the world, and a lot of the time you'll find out that people are having convulsions and that they're having symptoms that are in line with medically recognized issues and problems. They're just not being treated for them. It's being seen as demonic possession. And so they're being exorcised and treated. And actually you're using magical mumbo jumbo to treat people who are genuinely ill, who need help, like Jacqueline Sanchez, who needed actual help, not people standing around holding her down when she's having seizures and saying magical words. And it goes back to this idea that she was possessed because of the Ouija board. And the problem with the Ouija board, it's got a very, very dodgy history. And a lot of people tend to associate with the paranormal and supernatural, yet when it was first invented in 1891, it was developed as it was a board game. And it had nothing to do with the paranormal till around about, well, ghost paranormal until about World War I. And even today, it's still owned by a board game manufacturer. It's owned by Parker Brothers. It is a board game. So saying, using a Ouija board to talk to the dead is a little bit like using Twister to talk to God. And it's really, it's just really infuriating. And it's, this whole superstition that's arisen around a Ouija board needs to be debunked. We know how the Ouija board works. We know what causes it. This poor woman was ill and needed help, and ridiculous, nonsense, misinformed people were spouting bollocks, and she died as a result. I think this is where those of us who are skeptical of the paranormal, we come in, because a lot of people criticize and say, oh, well, of course ghosts aren't real, of course Ouija boards aren't real. But actually, when you look at people who believe they are real and things like this happen, I think it's really, really important that we are speaking about this. We are explaining it. Yeah, sure, people know the Ouija board's idiomotor effect. Not everyone does. Because of the way people have been brought up, because of what they've been told, people believe the Ouija board is a gateway to hell or some demonic force.
The phrase I hate about it, sorry to Ash, is when they call it an unfinished item or an unfinished basically the idea is like, because it's not a proper thing, it means you're always going to open up a portal to something unfinished, whatever. I can't remember the exact phrase now, but basically
there used to be this saying that in the ghost hunting thing, where they would say, if you open a door, be sure that you can close the door, because they saw the Ouija board as you opening a door into the spirit portal.
Yeah, it's the entire situation is something that I think we need to be addressing more and more. And I was doing my shows, I always try to bring up the Ouija board and discuss what it is. And I also discuss exorcisms as well, because this scenario here is it's upsetting, because this woman should have been in a hospital. Yeah. She should have been getting treatment. She should not have been in the middle of a church with people standing around saying magic words.
It's not just magic words either. It's you have the vision of an exorcism being just a priest standing over you, doing said magic words, but there's also violence involved. Some of these lesions she had on her, we're not privy to any coroner's report or anything, if there is one. She's been held down, she might have been beaten, who knows what's been happening to her. So
typically, though,
it's not a gentle process being exercised.
I've read a lot about
abuse.
Yeah, I've read a lot about exorcisms, and typically they're just epileptic fits. They hold the same medical symptoms and epileptic fits, and it's medically documented as well, and mostly in sort of my story sort of links onto this, but mainly in sort of like South American and African countries and places like that. That these people. They are so religious. They will, like Ash said, they bypass any type of medical explanation and will go straight on to a religious one. And it's just horrible. It's a horrible thing.
There's a great chapter in a book that I keep raving about called Will Storr versus the Supernatural. Journalist who wrote for GQ, sorry, and he basically turned these articles into a book about how he went around the world ghost hunting. And the book ends with a chapter about how he was invited to some southern state in America because there was definite proof that this child was possessed and the mother was bringing in priests to do an exorcism. And when Will Storr saw the footage with this demonologist, he took the demonologist to one side and went, "This is abuse, and you don't want to get involved in this. In fact, you want to report it, because when this gets out and you're involved with it, you won't be seen as demonologist who helped exorcise a child. You'll be seen as the guy who abused a child, you know, for video footage and stuff like that." And it ended up being a problem with the mother in the end, in terms of her behaviour, and she was projecting that onto the child. It's a troubling and very dark and worrying thing, but we have that you know, first world privilege of going to WebMD first before we can sort the Necronomicon. And it doesn't quite translate with that when you have a society built much more on faith and religion and that whole kind of doctrine growing up.
Well, Mike, do you want to go on to your story, because this is very closely linked to what Ash has been discussing?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a story, a video with Ashley, but there was definitely one with mine from the Mail.
Yeah, it's with this story. If you go to, and you know, I will advise people that it's actually quite horrendous to watch. But if you go to bit.ly /Argentina exorcism, all one word, Argentina exorcism, it's the story, but also there's a video there of what this person went through. Yeah,
it kind of links on to Ash's really. It's I try with my stories. I try and sort of stay light-hearted, but this one really gripped me. There's a story with a video that basically is an exorcism. It's there's been loads that have been captured, but not quite as theatrical as this one. And it's almost as if the priest or the bishop that's doing it is almost doing it. He's playing up to the cameras. It's very theatrical. There's smoke. There's
one bit actually. Sorry to interrupt. They're filming what's going on, and he stood there with a cross in one hand, and then in his other hand he's got like his book, just so that you can see the book.
Yeah, it's very theatrical. It's almost it's real. You know, it's not an actual. It's not a story. It's not a film or anything. It's real, but it's almost as if he's playing up to the cameras. But the story is like residents that were living with this woman. Were seeing unusual shadows that were giving off their own light. I'm not sure how that works. But they were giving off and the moving objects on their own accord. I'm not sure how that links to exorcism either. But they eventually got this man in. He's called Bishop Manuel Acuna, and his assistants. I'm not going to go into their names. It's pointless. But they bring him in, and he's apparently very, very specialised in electromagnetic fields. And I really honestly don't know how it all links up to exorcism. But they get him in, they take this whole video of him this exorcism. And what's really strange is everybody has damned him. Even the Catholics have chimed in on one of their websites and gone, "What are you doing?" Because it doesn't actually follow any of the plan of how exorcism should be performed in any way. So the video is really disturbing, like Katie said, and it's almost as if he's taking advantage of the situation to big up his status as an exorcist. And this isn't performed very much these days. It's only, especially by the Catholic Church, it's only performed very, very rarely by them. Not that it ever has to be, but it's only performed. I will go through some of the steps if I can, guys. I know we're short on time here. But the signs that are by the Catholic Church that has to be followed in order to take an exorcism is a loss and lack of appetite, cutting and scratching. We had that in the last one. Unnatural body postures and a contortion of the face, and it goes on and on and on. And none of these were followed at all. The points were followed by him, and he's been completely damned by almost every Catholic group out there. I don't know what you guys think of it.
Well, it was like you were saying earlier, people who others believe to be possessed, or people who believe they're possessed, are often, they're ascribing to possession symptoms of underlying mental health or physical health conditions, such as hysteria or Tourette syndrome, epilepsy, I think you mentioned, schizophrenia. And I think there was, because I was interviewed about this by a newspaper once, and I refused to go on record because it's just, you know, sensationalism and actually quite stigmatizing. But I was researching for that, and there was a statistic, I think, about 30% of people who have dissociative identity disorder, when they're questioned about who their other identities are, they say that they're demons.
Yeah.
And so these people who say they're possessed or who others believe are possessed usually have other conditions that are causing their symptoms,
Yeah.
and unfortunately they don't get the help that they need.
What got me is there was an interview with him a couple of weeks afterwards, dealing with the whole case, and I'll read out a little short one here, and it's just so bizarre. When did you? This is a paper, an Argentinian paper. Goes, when did you start performing exorcisms? He said, I've been doing exorcisms since 1998, when I had to face a woman possessed by a demon for the first time. I've taken evil out of bodies of many people, over 100 people, which sounds a bit, exaggerated, through what we call diagnostic exorcism. Okay? And the paper goes on, what is it like to deal with a possessed person? And he goes, very intense. Their eyes turn white. Their voices change. They can vomit, and they develop an uncommon strength. And he goes, what, like the movie The Exorcist? And he goes, more or less. And it's like, what? So he's basing his things off of movies as well, which is just so bizarre. It really is.
It just seems like a big advertisement for himself, really, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It feels like it's more like evangelism than it is exorcism. Again, bringing back that Wilkes-Storr versus the Supernatural book, there's a chapter in that where he talks about going to the Vatican to talk about how they deal with exorcisms, and they go, well, we've got a room for exorcisms in the heart of the Vatican, and he goes to it, and he says what was noticeable about the room was that you're walking down these corridors in the Vatican full of gold leaf paintings and this extraordinary wealth, and then you turn a corner and it's like going into a deprived third world hospital. It's grey, it's cold, and then he goes in and there's a bed that looks like a bed a woman would get a smear test in, basically, he was saying, or something like that, and a horrible, very cold ceramic surrounding. And he goes, it's a marked difference between the Vatican as we see it, that sits on all this wealth, and then how they kind of treat the darkness within the whole process. It's worrying because it kind of feels like a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about being authoritative on something, and that sounds awfully familiar.
Yeah, and officially sanctioned by a big church as well. So where in countries where it is more where Catholicism is a big part of the way of life, to see that the main Vatican Church allowing exorcisms to go on and to continue to go on, it cannot be good, cannot end well.
No.
And exorcisms are still taking place all over the world in different denominations and different styles. There was a story not long ago of a group of young women from America. I think they were sisters who went over to Eastern Europe to exorcise people, and one of the groups of people they were trying to exorcise were sex workers. So there's so many ethical questions that go around it as well. It's just a really alarming area that in 2015 this is something that does still exist.
Yeah.
This whole thing just feels like something that should have been left behind in the 16th century, but yet it's still continued.
It's like the Inquisition. That was completely outlawed. So I don't see, honestly, in the Inquisition people were killed, but people are dying through exorcisms as well. So I don't see the difference between outlawing the Inquisition and also not outlawing exorcisms. It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Isn't there another very famous exorcism, and I can't remember her name now, but I want to say Annalise or Annabelle or something like that. But there was a case about a very famous exorcism that was caught.
Emily Rose.
Emily
Rose. Yeah, that's not a real name. It was based on the exorcism.
The film was based on that. Yeah.
Oh right.
But I've just put actually a link which hopefully Hayley can maybe share with the rest of the world, which is about a Russian. There's an audio recording of a Russian exorcism, and you can hear that. It's very noisy, very loud, but you basically hear this chanting, and then whoever they're doing the exorcism to, howling, doing all kinds of weird, unsettling noises.
Yeah, if you want to watch that, you can go to bit.ly/Russia exorcism.
There we go.
And just as a final note on that story, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but lots of ghost hunters who think they're sensitive or believe in ghosts, they often do like house clearings, and more they're referring to them as exorcisms, whereas traditionally they would have just been spirit clearings. And there's that kind of crossover. So that guy that I spoke about before, Steve Neeshaw, the hypno exorcism that he's doing is actually more like a psychic clearing than anything, but that terminology is coming over into that kind of ghost hunting world. And actually, if what they do helps, it's probably down to the placebo effect and the power of suggestion, I would imagine.
You know, I would have thought with the advent of almost everybody knowing that Most Haunted and all those programs are fake now, that it would have been dying down a little bit, but it seems to be increasing. You know, it seems to be getting worse, if anything.
Yeah, well, this is that thing that I think goes back to the spiritualism movement of the late 1800s, early 1900s, where there was this whole thing about technology and industry growing, and famously, you know, said God is dead and man has killed him and all this kind of stuff. And so, because religion was on the down slide at that point, spiritualism was the kind of fill-in, and I think that's basically what's happening again here. I think we've got all these kind of religions kicking off, and then we've got this core of people who believe in the supernatural going, well, this is actually the truth way of looking at life after death, and it's a nice, healthy alternative to slacking off Catholics or Muslims or Jews or whatever you want to call it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think we've come to the end of the show, guys. I mean, that's all we've got time for. We could probably talk for hours and hours and hours, but if anybody who's watching or watches this after we're live sees any stories over the next month that you think we should discuss, please feel free to email them to throwghosts@spooktator.co.uk, or you can drop us a line on the Facebook page or on Twitter. On Twitter we're at the Spooktator, and if you go to facebook.com/Spooktator, you can just leave messages there. Guys, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
No, not this month. No, I've got a few private gigs, but that's about it. Next month, though, I will.
Okay.
Hayley, what are you doing on December the 12th?
On December 12th, I am speaking for CFI UK, Centre for Inquiry UK, at Conway Hall in London. It's called, I think it's Science in the Media, and I'm talking about ghosts and the way that the media reports on them, which is kind of links into the show actually quite nicely. And there will be somebody talking about Doctor Who, and also Michael Marshall of the Good Thinking Society will be talking about how he investigates alternative medicine and other pseudoscience.
Cool. Well, you can follow me at Paul Gannon Show, all one word, and I've given up mostly doing live performance for a bunch of podcasts now. So if you want to follow me on this podcast, you can. Or there's one I do called The Fictionary, where we talk about our favourite words, and then there's my other show called Cheap Show. You can all find those on SoundCloud or iTunes or Stitcher, whatever you want. Just do the search. Anyway, that's me.
Anybody else for anything else?
Oh, you might as well follow me on Twitter at ScaryDuck, or find my comedy website. It's just Google angry people in local newspapers for hundreds of pictures of people being angry in local newspapers. That's what it says on the tin.
It's brilliant. I love it when it comes off my Facebook feed. It just makes my day so much better.
I suppose I should also, plug my Twitter then, at Psychic Conman, all one word.
Brilliant. Okay, well, you can now subscribe to the Spooktator on iTunes, where we release the edited down podcast version. We're hoping to bring you 2 every month, so do check that out. We're also on SoundCloud and in various other places. We've got links to everything though on spooktator.co.uk, and remember, spooky is in the eye of the beholder.